ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it is that time of the morning for the Breakfast Bankroll with the one and only Mr. Adam Trigger at Adam Trigger WT on X. Go follow him now, and of course at Wager Talk. Around 11:35-ish, 11:40, the Philly Godfather himself is making an appearance live here. We're going to talk some Super Bowl. I was on Radio Row last year in Las Vegas, where I was finally able to meet him. We brought him on for a couple spots last year with Anthony Pepe and, of course, Sports Map Radio. So busy show here. Shout out to our proud sponsorships, of course, and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play. Download that app. It is free. If you are on Radio Row, go say hi to Travis, Zach, Guy, and the rest of the WagerWire crew. Viva Tequila Seltzer, 6 flavors in all. The East Coast is cuckoo for coconuts. And finally, AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Introduce yourself to Terry Smith over on Facebook. Then head on back to AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Use the promo code SHRIMP. Get a 2-pound bag of 1640s, the big ones, for your Super Bowl party, some surf and trip, however you want to use it. 4 subscription packs. Take a look at one of them. Check a box, and every 30 days, Terry will deliver you amazing steaks, chops, appetizers, wine, you name it, he's got it. So without further ado, let's bring him in, Mr. Adam Trigger. Morning,
What's going
Adam.
on, Jeff?
You know,
Morning.
The funny part here is Sunday, Super Bowl, and then it's the real show. It's the rest of the conference plays. It's the conference championships, and of course, it's March Madness. I like to say the rubber officially hits the road on Monday. We've been doing shows here now, I think, since the start of the season. And just give us an overview where your eyes were in October and early November to where we are today.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's I got to be honest. It's frustrating what college basketball has kind of become, because for a sports bettor, because it used to be like, you go back 5-10 years ago. Let's go back pre-NIL portal. Like it used to be, if you really put in the work over the summer and in September, October, you could crush November, December, because you would just have such an edge in some of these smaller leagues and some be way ahead of the number in a lot of cases, which it is still very possible, but the results are so random now, right? Like go back to November, December. There's so much randomness because we have the portal, we have NIL, we have guys, like no one stays with the same team. So it's like, it's hard to get ahead of the, well, it's like, it doesn't even matter if you get ahead of the books, because you end up with a great number. The play loses because so much stuff is random. I love February And I like February and March now, personally, more than I like November, December. It used to be you cleaned up in November and December and then just tried to survive the rest of the year because the books would catch up, things would get tougher. And it was November and December were the time to win. Now I almost think you have to survive the early part of the season while everyone's just guessing, right? Like half these rosters have new guys. We don't know how, it's just a guessing game. And then you get to this point in the year, you have some non-conference data to go with a good sample size in conference. I feel like February is the kind of the time to make February, and that first week of conference tournaments is like the sweet spot now for college hoops. So love that it's here. Could care less about the Super Bowl. Ready to talk some college hoops.
And the cream is starting to rise to the top in this regards. It looks like there's some separation, and we know where you end up the end of the year, where you're positioned in the brackets. I mean, Auburn looks like a definite number one seed. Duke with Cooper Flagg, obviously. Then you got the SEC guys, Alabama, Tennessee. Don't forget Houston. Oh, by the way, Florida. We'll throw a Big Ten team in there called Purdue. Iowa State in the Big 12. Michigan State, who didn't lose in January, now has lost 2 straight. And then, of course, Texas A&M. I know you're you really focus there, but at the top of that slate, is there an outlier? Is there someone that you could say, here, Adam, here's $100, pencil them in for the Final Four?
Oh, for the Final Four, I think it's like, Jeff, you know how the NCAA tournament, you got to run hot. You have to avoid the slip up or the pitfall. But I think reasonably, like if you were to say UConn the last 2 years, like they didn't really have a scare, right? You know what I mean? Like they were dominant enough to kind of get there. I think Duke is the team this year. And I think people are going to sleep on Duke a little bit because the ACC is down, but that shouldn't take away from how good Duke has played, how impactful Flagg is. Like that's the team where, they got to the Elite Eight last year and they lost a game that I think they probably haunts them, right? Like the fact that that NC State team was not good. That they should have never been in a Final Four, and Duke's game plan in that Elite Eight game was awful. I think it's one. If Shire could pick a game that he would want to have back from his coaching career, it's got to be that one. So I think you get the experience from getting the Elite Eight last year, falling short. You're top 5 team offensively and defensively. You have the best player in college basketball. I think Duke is the one I'm most confident saying that they're going to be there on that last weekend playing for a title.
Before we dig into a couple games that you want to break down, I wouldn't be doing my job, Adam. There is an absolute must-watch marquee game. I said jokingly backstage, I know where you should be tomorrow, and that's of course St. John's traveling to Stores, Gamble Arena. I don't know if it'll be a whiteout. I know the place is going to be rocking. Rumor has it Liam will be back for UConn. The Johnnies 20-3, just cooking with Crisco. Thoughts early on that game tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll go back to what we talked about last week. We talked about Marquette, UConn last week on this show on a Thursday, 2 days before the game, and kind of what I said in the discussion that we've been having on the show for weeks was there's going to be a time to buy UConn. And I kind of hinted at maybe it being on Saturday. Of course, I come on here and talk about it. Did I bet UConn on Saturday? No, I didn't. Can't take credit for it. But, I thought that the time was coming. Of course, they go to Marquette, win as a dog. I'm not saying that this is 2 years ago where this team is going to go on and win a NCAA champion, win another title. But it certainly feels like the spot a couple of years ago where like the light bulb went off a little bit. And Hurley kind of I've talked about it. Like they're the best coaching staff in the country. I still believe that this is Dan Hurley's the best coach in the country. And his staff is all guys that could be head coaches other places. All guys on that, everyone on that staff essentially turned down a Fairfield or a Siena or the ability to have their own program to stay and coach at UConn. That was what I think Saturday was. And I am not getting in front of this team right now. Like it's UConn or pass for me for the time being. And so it would be UConn or pass for me tomorrow night.
In the Big East, UConn, Marquette, St. John's, Creighton's playing better. So after this game, UConn will travel to Creighton. Is there a team that sticks out to you in the Big East? Like the Big East title to win in Madison Square Garden, the conference. Listen, if UConn did what they did 2 years ago and lost in the semis, I actually would be glad. Gives them a little extra. But if you had to put your hat on one of the four, or you got a sleeper, who would it be, do you think, to actually win this Big East tournament this year?
Well, I guess I'll touch on both. Like, I guess the same argument could be applied to like the win the league and win the tournament. Like, I still think St. John's has the most upside, even from the position that they're in. Even that I said I didn't want to bet them tomorrow night. Like, good. Just if they go to gamble and lose as an 11-1 team, the Big East, no big deal. Like, that's not a bad loss by any means. The reason I'm really high on St. John's is I think this team has some offensive upside that hasn't been realized yet. Like, okay, so they're bad. They're not a particularly good jump shooting team, not a good 3-point shooting team. Offensively, they're worse than they were last year. If you look at Ken Pom, I think they're like about 58th, right? Or 58 and adjusted. Or I'm sorry, where is their offensive rating? I just lost it. 73rd adjusted offensive efficiency on Ken Pom. I got to imagine that can be better based on what they were last year. I think it's just Pitino tweaking a couple of things and just maybe taking less outside shots. They've already kind of started to do that, or they figure out a way to hit some of them. Like they figure out a way to hit an outside jumper. It's just really been the only thing that they're bad at, because defensively, St. John's is as good as it gets. There might be, I know, what do we have right now? Like Tennessee is what Ken Pom has won for defense right now. I'd argue that St. John's is as good, if not better, defensively. I think they're like on par. Yet I don't think St. John's gets the credit that Tennessee does when you talk about, the best defensive team in the country, or like that a Duke or a Houston does. Though Tennessee, Duke, Houston get the credit for it. St. John's doesn't always get the credit for it, in my opinion. So I think if St. John's can figure it out a little bit more on the offensive end, that would be the team I would not want to go against. I think they would end up winning the Big East. I think they still probably win the Big East, just given their position right now and where they are. I mean, if they win Friday, if they go in there tomorrow and win, they're probably going to win the Big East. But even if they lose that game, I really like St. John's. And I think that, early-ish exit in the Big East tournament last year, they played a really good game against that UConn team. Probably the most competitive anyone was with that UConn team, post that Creighton game. I think it was Creighton was the game that UConn went out, just didn't give a shit, lost, just kind of got blown out. After they came back for that game, I mean, it was just all business for UConn. The one team that really gave them a run was St. John's in the Big East tournament. And I'm kind of a believer. Like, remember, St. John's missed the tournament last year, which was total nonsense, but they did. That's the team that I think has the most upside, most chance to win something, whether it be a regular season title, a Big East title, or make a run in the tournament. That's the Big East team I think is the best.
We did a segment yesterday on our buy, hold, sell, or yell, powered by WagerWire. And it was just amazing to see you can still get in on the Johnnies at 47-1 to cut the nets down.
It makes no sense. I thought it makes no sense. Why is that? Why that number's that high still? I'm not saying they're going to do it, but that's crazy.
Well, here's the shocking number. And anyone watching and listen, we got standing room only right now on Twitter. You can get the Johnnies, depending on what shop you go, 9 or 10-1 to make it to the Final Four. So, I mean, listen, pizza and beer money, as I like to say, 47-1, some more pizza and beer money. But if you're going to give me 9 or 10-1 on the Johnnies to get to the Final Four, I definitely added that to my portfolio, Adam.
Yeah, my whole thing is this. Like right now, St. John's comes into play. They're hitting 29.6% from three, which is horrible. That's an absolutely horrific mark from 3-point range, right? Like that's as bad as you're going to find in the country. Sub 30% 3-point shooting team is literally like the bottom 20 teams. I think there's like probably 20 teams in the country that shoot worse than 30% from three. St. John's is one of them. Like if they can just bring that up a little bit, and they've got, I mean, it's not like they have incompetent offensive players. They've got to be like right in the mix with, like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's the only thing in my opinion that keeps them from really being in the conversation with the Tennessees, the Floridas, the Alabamas, the Purdues, the teams like Texas Tech. St. John's gets placed below them, and it's because they're just not there offensively. Pitino, if he can get them there, and he's got guys like Kadari Richmond, RJ Luis, like these are guys that if they can figure it out or just figure out how to up the field goal percentage, they have to be in the mix for a title. Like you have to put them in that conversation.
Well, I think Ken Palm's got UConn winning by 1. It's going to be a hell of a game tomorrow at Stores. As we always do, we love to break down a couple of games for you here. You got the Fairfield shirt on, so let's go right
it is just, I hope none of my Siena buddies watch this show. That's all I have to say. I'm rolling up in a Fairfield, but I told Fairfield Frank, a Twitter friend of mine, that I'd rock the Fairfield shirt when I talked about him here on the show today. So yeah, I took the 6.5 with Fairfield. Let's set the table real quick. Like I know a lot, if you don't follow MAC basketball, Marist is off to a historic start. Jeff, a start that hasn't been seen since the days of Rick Smits. Okay. Marist is off to one of the best starts in program history, 16-3. But some of that has to do with how poor this conference is. So it's just the MAC is just not what it used to be. Like, listen, John Dunn is the Marist head coach. He's been in this conference for 2 decades. Typically, he's not, his teams typically aren't better than 500. But the reality is the rest of the league is so poor this year, and it has been for a couple of years, that Marist is just kind of rolling through winning games because they defend their tails off and they can get enough stops to just hold off the rest, teams like Siena. If you go back to Friday night, they couple stops down the stretch, they hold Siena off, and they've won a lot of games like that. So I look at this game. You're getting Fairfield plus 6.5 here. This game is it's at the Mahoney Arena. Jeff, you got to get out and go to the Mahoney Arena. I know you're in the area. It is one of the nicest buildings I've been in. The new arena is absolutely incredible. I don't know how this place isn't sold out every night. I know one of the reasons is Fairfield hasn't been that good. But it's a nationally televised game on ESPNU. They've played awful recently. And I just think that, this is the spot to, if there was ever a spot for Fairfield to kind of get back up for a game, 3 straight blowout losses, it's this spot. So the spot definitely favors Fairfield. The matchup, I think, is better for Fairfield than the odds makers are projecting here. And then that the betting public thinks, because this is getting bet up. This was 4.5, it's now 6.5. If Fairfield's missing, if let's say Kyle Jenkins doesn't play for Fairfield, no big deal. No one on that Fairfield team is really moving the number right now, except for maybe Dion Perry. I think he's their best player. And actually his usage is up the last couple games. They've kind of made him the focal point. Loyola Maryland transfer to Fairfield. He's starting to look like the guy that averaged 18 points a game at Loyola last year. And that's huge for Fairfield. But the thing that Fairfield struggles with is defense. They are awful defensively. They're probably bottom 20 nationally in terms of defensive metrics. But that's the one area where Marist is not guaranteed to kill you, because Marist, as a 16-3 team, Jeff, that's 9-1 in MAC play. They are outside. They're 300th in total offense. Evan Maya's got them 299 in offensive rank. Ken Palm's got them 301 in adjusted offensive efficiency. That's a 16-3 team there that's trending toward being outside the top 300 offensively. John Dunn is just going to live on the defensive end. He's done it in this conference for years. And Chris Casey, who's a terrible coach. That's another reason Fairfield is struggling. Horrible hire. Should have never hired him. He was terrible at Niagara for half a decade. Why he's the head coach at Fairfield now is baffling to me. But he's been around in this league for a long time, and they've seen John Dunn for a long time. It's the same thing. John Dunn from St. Peter's for all those years. John Dunn at Marist, same thing. His teams are always going to struggle offensively. They're going to defend their tails off. I think Fairfield can prep for that. The first game, Prophet Johnson didn't play in the first game for Fairfield. It was a competitive game that Marist kind of pulled away late. I think Marist ended up winning by 10, but it was tied at halftime. I think Fairfield wins here. I think they're going to go on national TV on ESPNU tonight and pull the upset, or the mild upset. If they don't, it's probably close. I bet Fairfield plus 6.5. I think it's a good game.
I love where your eyes are there. I agree with you. I mean, you when I go and do our research, and as you said, they lost by 10 on January 12th, 61-51. You got a 16-3 team here versus an 8-14 team that has lost three in a row, and it's actually won. If you go way, way back, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They're 3-10 their last 13, and they're only catching six against a 6-13 team. Love where your eyes are here. The second game, Tarleton State and Seattle. Tarleton State has been dear to our hearts here at ECSI. We've been very successful on picking on them on their team totals here. Kind of interested to hear where you're leaning in this game.
Yeah, this is couple things you're gonna have to know about this game would be one, the status of Freddie Hicks. Like, I think that's a huge part of the handicap here. So Freddie Hicks is the best player on Tarleton. I got a chance to go travel with the team. I have a buddy that's really close to that team. I went out when I was out in Arizona. I met up with them, went to the Grand Canyon game. The coaches on that team believe that he's as important to their team as any player in the country. Like, going into the season, the entire offense was set up to run around him. Then he got hurt, and then he re-aggravated his injury. So he really didn't end up playing until like the beginning of conference play. And without any surprise, no surprise to anyone that knows anything about this team, with him back, the 3 games that he was back, Tarleton looked really good, right? Like, they looked more like the team that I think they were expected to be this year, prior to like getting decimated with injury early on. Now, unfortunately for Tarleton, he went down again prior to last week. So he re-injured himself again. He missed both games against the Utah schools, but the Southern Utah schools, Utah Tech and Southern Utah, are abysmal this year. They're awful. So bad. Arguably the 2 worst teams in the league. So Freddie didn't play last week, but Tarleton didn't really, it didn't hurt them because the quality of the opposition they were playing was really poor. Seattle is really a very solid basketball team. And actually, I would argue that Seattle is quite a bit underrated because Matthew Alexander-Moncrief and Kobe Williamson missed so much time. So they were without arguably their 2 best players for a lot of conference play. And since they've both been back, even though the Seattle team has lost 3 straight, they played a lot better, right? And at this point, like, if you're losing a close game to Utah Valley or Grand Canyon, that's not a bad loss. Like, those 2 teams are phenomenal. Like, Utah Valley and Grand Canyon are far better than anyone else in the conference. It's like Grand Canyon's probably 1, Utah Valley's probably like 1A, 1B, and everyone else is way off of what those 2 teams are, except for a healthy Seattle team. So I think you get the combination of Seattle wasn't healthy for a long time. Seattle has 3 straight losses, and they come off of playing the 2 best teams in the league. They get a chance to regroup. They get to go back home, and they get to play Tarleton State, who may still be without Freddie Hicks. Like, we don't know, but my gut tells me, especially with how the injury has gone this year for him, that this is kind of a lost season for him. Like, it feels like he's giving it a go, and he keeps re-aggravating the same injury. I'd be kind of surprised to see him out there tonight. I have no intel there. I don't know for sure. But my gut says he's probably out again. And if he's out, I just don't see how there's any chance they hang with Seattle. These 2 teams are just not, they're on different, Seattle's just on a different level. And if Tarleton's not at full strength, I don't think that's a tough trip. Remember, the WAC, you've got a team come from the, that's about an hour and a half away from Fort Worth, heading all the way up to the Pacific Northwest for a conference game. Like, that's definitely the tough that anyone has to make in this league. Texas all the way up to Seattle. I think Tarleton's in trouble tonight. I like Seattle by double digits.
Well, as we always wrap up this spot, Adam, I'd like to give you the stage here. Everyone knows on Twitter to go follow you at Adam Trigger WT, but you got some great work. at Wager Talk, and of course your podcast schedule, your show schedule. So let them have it, Adam.
Yeah, so I do a daily college basketball show for free on it's posted to the Wager Talk YouTube channel. So head on over there, give us a like and a subscribe, but you can always get it on X as well. I post it on my page where I talk about a couple of different games each day. And then all of my stuff is at Wager Talk. So I went 2-0 last night. I was at the Rutgers game, so I'm exhausted right now. Drove all the way back to Central New York after the game, but it was well worth it. Had a nice winner there and got to see Dylan Harper. Comes back, kind of announced right before the game. So that was great. So 2-0 yesterday. I'm going to have a pretty big card today, probably. Thursday's kind of, we moved me to Thursday because I feel like this is like the day that all the small leagues play. I went 4-0 last Thursday, so I'm kind of trying to hope to replicate that today. I've already locked 2 things in. I probably have 3 or 4 total. All of those are available on my page at Wager Talk. So check that out at Wager Talk. And again, like I give out a lot for free as well. So head on over, follow my X handle right there on your screen. And I do a daily college basketball show where I typically try to give out at least one angle that I've personally bet. And then, just thoughts on some others. So that'll be up a little bit later this afternoon.
Adam, always a pleasure. Have a great, great day. Enjoy yourself this weekend. Stay safe out there. It's snowing and raining back here on the Cape as well. So enjoy yourself, and we'll catch up soon.
Sounds good, Jeff. Appreciate you having me as always.
Take care. Adam Trigger, go follow him at Adam Trigger WT. You're going to want to sit back and relax because we're blessed and honored to have good friend and colleague, someone I met a year ago, face-to-face, Radio Row, Las Vegas. He's known as the Philly Godfather. He gave me a quote that I'm taking to the grave. I'm telling you, I use this quote more often than not, and I have to thank Steve for this. So stay tuned. Quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Jared, hey, we're gonna need you to tone it down with the Summer Friday thing, okay?
What are you talking about?
Well, for one, it's not summer anymore.
Oh, really?
Coconut. Also, who is this?
I'm the caddy.
Oh, he's my intern.
Sorry, intern. I'm his intern.
Yeah, he's doing a great job.
No golfing in the office, okay? Summer Fridays are over. You can keep the Hawaiian shirt, but the rest of this stuff, all right? Are you grilling?
Oh, yeah. Did you want a burger or a hot dog?
No, grilling in the office.
That's a good point. We should take this outside.
No, that don't. You put that right back down.
Yo, it's all in the hips.
Oh, dude, come on, we gotta go. Let's go.
Without further ado, let's bring him in. The Philly Godfather himself. What's up, Stevie?
Thanks for having me on, man. It's a great time of year back here at the City of Brotherly Love. I was supposed to be in New Orleans. Plans got canceled, so I'm not actually going down this year. I got my book out, booked. A lot of stuff going on right now.
Stevie, it was a year ago, almost to the day. Myself and Anthony Pepe brought you on to the Die Hard Sports Map Radio. We brought you on for a couple spots, breaking down Chiefs 49ers. You said something to me, as I said in the beginning here, a quote that I'm taking to the grave. And your exact words to me were, you can't quantify greatness. You can't put a number on it. And you were talking about the Tiger Woods of the world. You were talking about the Floyd Mayweathers. You were talking about Michael Jordan. You were talking about Tom Brady. And hence here we are back talking about Patrick Mahomes. Talk about that little phrase that I'm going to get that tattooed on my ass, Steve. I'm telling you.
Well, as a sports bettor, you're trying to quantify each and everything. You're trying to identify value in the market each and every day. You're trying to figure out which teams are better, which teams aren't. And when a kid comes along like Patrick Mahomes, who's a once-in-a-lifetime generational talent, you just can't put your finger on how great he is. I mean, look at the Chiefs in the playoffs. They're the only team to lose a turnover battle in the playoffs this season, and they won the game. Usually, if you lose a turnover battle 1-0, you lose the game about 68% of the time. You don't cover about 68% of the time. A +2 turnover differential is right around 82%. And this kid keeps defying math. He keeps defying the odds. And that's how great he is. So it's so hard betting against a kid like this. He's 16-2 in January and February. Only two quarterbacks that have beaten him in the playoffs, Tom Brady and Joe Burrow. So it's just hard betting against this type of guy.
You're in the city of brotherly love. You got a gift last year, Saquon Barkley, and when healthy, if not the best, one of the top three backs, obviously, in the league. He's had an MVP year. He sat out week 18, could have broke the record. He's a team player, great guy. Jalen Hurts, is he hurt? Is he not hurt? I mean, you got weapons everywhere. You got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Goddard at tight end. You got defense second to none. Give us an overview back in August, your thoughts pre-flop, and to where you are today, Stevie.
Well, I was really happy. I was glad we picked up Saquon Barkley as an Eagles fan because Jalen had become a turnover machine, and they were depending on him too much to throw the ball. And this week, after around week 6, you saw the change in the offensive play calling. Less passing the ball, more running the ball. And since they've done that, they've become unstoppable. It's old school football. Run the ball, time of possession. The team that outrushes their opponent wins the game 90% of the time. No mistakes. I'm always talking about turnover differentials. And this was actually the first year we finally put our turnover model into play. We actually bet it. We ended up winning 30 positions. And it helps us predetermine who's going to win the turnover differential in each and every NFL game. And this week coming up again against the Chiefs, the Eagles are supposed to win the turnover battle. So that's huge for me. But Hurts had become a turnover machine. He was a little banged up middle of the season, his knee. I know he was wearing a brace a few weeks ago, but now he's 100% healthy. The Eagles have more weapons on the field than the Chiefs do offensively. Obviously, Travis Kelce's a Hall of Famer. Mahomes, the greatest, maybe the greatest of all time. I still have Tom Brady up there, but he's getting pretty close. But you look at A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, Dallas Goedert, and even, guys like Gainwell can come in there and make some plays, and Shipley and guys like that. And Jalen Hurts, I mean, he's not – I've always said he's not an elite quarterback, traditional quarterback, but he gives you so many other ways to win the game on fourth down with the tush push, running the ball. So he gives you a lot of different options. It's like having a great poker hand when you have Jalen Hurts back there at quarterback. He gives you different options of how to win the game. And now that they've solved that turnover issue, they've become really hard to beat. So it was a blessing to bring Saquon over. I mean, no one has a better offensive line than the Philadelphia Eagles. Nobody in the league. Those guys are amazing. And thank God they're healthy. Landon Dickerson's healthy. He's going to play. Cam Jurgens, he's going to play. I was worried about that a little bit, but now that they're 100% healthy, I feel strong with this Eagles team going into the Super Bowl.
You go back 2 years ago, you came off the NFC Championship 31-7 against the Niners, a game that you basically wiped out both their quarterbacks. I think we even saw McCaffrey back there for a few hot seconds there. Then you came into the Super Bowl against Mahomes. Our good friend and colleague, Mr. Jeffrey Benson, the only person in the world that opened up Kansas City -2, and the first 22 of the 25 bets were all on Philly. Got that to Philly to a pick 'em to -1. Then, of course, the serve and volley back and forth. You had the halftime lead. Jalen Hurts, 6-1. We had him pre-flop before the tournament started to win the MVP. They were engraving the trophy. Take us back 2 years ago. Your thoughts at halftime? Nice, comfortable lead. And then you could see this thing starting to spiral. And what Mahomes does, they find a way to win it in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and Andy Reid and Spags. I mean, in-game adjustments, who's better than them in the second half? And, yeah, we were feeling great at halftime. I had bet them in the first half. I had bet the over in the first half. I had a real good year that year with all our Super Bowl props. And the game was pretty much playing the way, my game theory played out. I was expecting a bunch of points. I didn't expect the Eagles to be up that much at halftime. But you knew Mahomes was going to come back. You knew Andy Reid was going to make those in-game adjustments. And you were just hoping that Hurts didn't make a mistake. And he did make a mistake in that game when he fumbled the ball. And then, people talk about the refs and, does it feel like the Chiefs, are favored by the refs? Absolutely. If you go through the box scores, you'll see that they do get some more calls. So you got to worry about that as well. But, yeah, we were feeling pretty good at halftime. But, again, I mean, that kid is capable of doing anything. He's another Tom Brady. I remember betting Tom Brady and the Patriots when they were down 28-3 against the Falcons in the Super Bowl in the second half. And I was betting him, every which way I could. And he's that type of guy. So he's very scary. And that's why, like you said, you can't quantify greatness. That's a great line.
Oh, 100%. And you almost like, you want to try to figure this thing out. Okay. So pre-flop here, you think of the dink and dunk of the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes' first drive, 9 completions to 8 different guys. They'll attempt to run the ball, and then they'll kick a field goal by Butker. In comes Philadelphia. Unless Saquon breaks off a 70, 75, 80-yarder, which he's done all year and in the playoffs, again, you could see one of these 10, 12 possession drives, maybe kick a field goal. The Super Bowl historically, slow start. Then they score in the second quarter, half hour for the halftime, and then slow third quarter, and then the fireworks in the fourth quarter. What do you see in the first half, Steve?
I think it's going to be another slow-scoring game. I mean, Kansas City has started off really slow in the first half of these Super Bowls. I think they've scored a combined 33 points in 4 Super Bowls. Andy Reid doesn't like to take too many chances early, tries to fill these teams out to see where the opponent team's strengths and weaknesses are. And I think it's going to happen again this year. I went under 24.5 in the first half in this one. I bet the Eagles plus a half in the first half. I mean, if you put everything in a sample box, what are the 3 scenarios that can happen at halftime? The Eagles could be tied, they could be up, or they could be losing. So if you take the half a point, you cover 66% of the sample box, And the way Kansas City is starting off, in these Super Bowls over the last 4 times they've been in them, it kind of, leans that way. But again, you're investing. You're not trying to go crazy. You're not betting these, wagers for large amounts. You're just trying to find some value. You're trying to really break down the game at, how you think it's going to play out. I bet a lot of props. I think like in the second half, there's going to be a lot more points scored in the first half. I bet Jalen Hurts over 209 passing yards with all the negativity that's been coming in. I mean, I might be the only one betting the over on his passing yards in this football game. And I like being on an island. I usually make the most amount of money when I'm on a side and nobody else is, so I bet that. I bet Butker over 1.5 field goals early. That was, to me, I mean, I think that's stealing money. That's probably going to lose now that I said that, but I thought that was easy. I bet Worthy over 55.5 receiving yards for the Chiefs. He's the one guy that's extremely dangerous on that offensive side of the ball. Philly's got to really pay attention to him. What else did I bet? I bet over 3.5 Eagles to have a rushing attempt. I think at least 4 guys run the ball for the Birds here. I went over 5.5 Eagles to catch a pass. Last Super Bowl, I think they had 7 or 8 guys, different guys that caught passes. I bet a lot of the Eagles stuff over early in the prop bets. And I'm waiting to see how high these Chiefs, prop bets go up. And then I'll be looking to bet the under late because I think the public's very enamored with, Kelsey and Mahomes and that offense. And I think those numbers are going to go up. And I think I'll find some value late betting the unders on the Chiefs prop bets. What else did I bet? I bet over 69.5 receiving yards for A.J. Brown. I think that's a mismatch on the field that the Eagles can take advantage of. Hopefully they do. I bet so many different things. I bet that the Chiefs would have a 4th down conversion. I laid 60 cents on that. I mean, who's better than Mahomes of, converting 4th down other than the Eagles tush push? There's so many things that, you run through the scenarios in your brain, what could happen. And then you're just looking, to identify some value, and you're nipping here and you're nipping there. And at the end, you hope you make more money than you lose.
We were blessed. We tried to get ahead of the market. Once the brackets were up here, we took a look at all the markets, and we figured out what we thought was the best case scenarios. We're sitting in pocket with the Chiefs to beat the Eagles at 11-1. We have the Eagles to beat the Chiefs at 17-1. And then the fun ones at FanDuel. I think someone was sleeping at the wheel here, Stevie. We got Mahomes, Super Bowl MVP, plus 450. And then the 2 cherry on tops. Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl MVP, 15-1. And now don't fall off your chair on this one. We got Saquon Barkley, Super Bowl MVP, at 21-1.
Yeah, I mean, you got everything covered. I mean, how are you going to lose those wagers unless Jalen Carter comes up and sacks Mahomes 5 times and causes a couple of turnovers, or maybe Chris Jones disrupts everything, or that Greek kid Karlaftis. I bet him to have a sack, to have at least one sack. Karlaftis, even money. I'll let you know, but I can't see that happening with as strong as the Eagles' offensive line is. Uh, I think they're going to have success, and the Chiefs' offensive line has had some issues this year. They're a little banged up. They're a little susceptible to interior pressure, and the Eagles don't send a lot of guys, but they get a lot of pressure on quarterbacks. So this is a little reminiscent to that Tampa Bay Super Bowl where Tampa Bay was getting all that pressure, and you saw Mahomes running backwards for almost 500 yards. So if that happens, I mean, the Eagles are the better team on paper, offensively, defensively, top 10. So many weapons. The X factors and nuances of the game, they're better. But again, it's Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Spags, and you got to beat those guys. And you got to make the in-game adjustments. And that's where the Eagles, are a little weaker than where the Chiefs are.
And I'm so glad you brought that Tampa Bay game up because you're 100% spot on. The fact of the matter is Mahomes was banged up. He had a bum ankle. Their offensive line was banged up. And you knew in the first quarter with all the pressure Tampa was putting them on them, Tom Brady, you knew that was a wrap in the first quarter.
Yeah, and I was lucky enough. I had him at 50-1 before they got Tom Brady. I got the information from a good friend of mine, Mr. Black. It's actually, I wrote about that in my book. And I wrote about that story, how I got that information, and only a handful of people in the world had that information. He was going to Tampa Bay. Everyone thought he was going to the Chargers. And we were out here betting 50-1 everywhere, off screen. We buried it, and then we bet the on screen outs. And during the regular season, I think they started off 7-5 that year, Tampa Bay. So it wasn't, it was a little shaky. And then they had lost to the Saints twice in the regular season, and it was like the Saints had their playbook. They got the Moss, and then in the playoffs, you saw what they did, and then in that Super Bowl. But this game here, the most recent game it reminds me of a little bit on the defensive side is where the Chiefs played the Texans, and they had a lot of problems in the playoffs this year. Texans actually had more first downs, more rushing yards. If it wasn't for the 82 penalty yards, final score might have been a little different in that Texans-Chiefs games. And this Eagles defense is similar to that, but they're better. And I saw the Texans give them a lot of headaches. And I think the Eagles defense is going to give the Chiefs even more headaches. And the Eagles offense is a lot better than that Texans offense, let's be honest. Andy Reid's got his hands full. Spags has his hands full. Eagles are the better team. But they got to beat, they got to beat greatness, and that's not easy to do.
And how did you beat Tom Brady? How did you beat Peyton Manning? You left them on the sidelines, so long drives, they can't do anything from the sidelines and hurt you. And so that's number one. And you have the offensive line, you have Barkley, you have the tush push on fourth down to move the chains. I don't think you want to roll the ball out and say, all right, first one to 35 wins this game, because I think on both sides of the ball, you are the better team.
Yeah, and anytime the Eagles held an opponent to under 100 rushing yards, they're 11-0 this season. So that's the game plan here. Can the Chiefs outrush the Eagles in this football game? And if they can't, well, then the Eagles definitely got a great shot of winning the game. I took the plus 1.5 small. I really want to take the alternate line on the Eagles. I think you can lay like 5.5 plus 200. And I'll definitely be on the island with that wager. I don't think anyone in the world is going to bet that. But, that'll kill all teasers. Everyone's teasing the Chiefs. Everyone's teasing it. This is one of those games where I think there's going to be a lot of teaser action both ways. I talked to my buddy Dave Mason at BetOnline, and he's telling me he's getting all Chiefs money line action. He needs the Eagles to win the game for his left lung. I mean, that's how much, action is coming in on the Chiefs money line. And it makes sense. I mean, you can't blame. I mean, the public's been winning all year in the NFL. So, and it makes sense. What are you going to bet against Mahomes in the Super Bowl? I mean, they're going for three straight. It's going to be very, I just hope it's a great game. And, cities like Philly, like Boston, they're fans, man. They live and die with their teams. And, when they win, the whole city's happy for a couple of weeks. And when they lose, it's like depression everywhere. Nobody wants to talk to anybody. So the Chiefs have had a lot of success. I'm hoping it's Philly's turn this time.
The whole world is an Eagle fan on Sunday. No one wants to see the three-peat. I'm 45 minutes from Gillette Stadium. And Pat, Patriots Nation is at a crumble. Well, look at the rings. You know, they can't compare Mahomes to Brady. How dare you do that? How dare you compare Kels to Gronkowski? I mean, it's ugly back here, okay? And all year, every time you get into a losing streak or you had a bad game, everyone wants Sirianni's head. And Bill Belichick has been sitting in the wings waiting for someone to call him. I've checked some of my sources back, you know, whether it was the Giants or the Eagles, and there were rumors, hey, give him a call. He'll be on your front doorstep if you want him.
Yeah. I mean, I feel bad for Sirianni, and I still don't know if he's a good coach, an okay coach, if he's just a cheerleader. Like, I don't know what he does, because I know the Eagles analytic department devises the whole game plan. But how can you argue with success? I mean, you know, you want to bash the guy, fine. He turns around. This is his second Super Bowl in, what, 4 years? How many coaches have done that in their first 4 years? It's hard enough getting to one Super Bowl. You know, and when you got guys like Brady and Mahomes, you know, winning all these Super Bowls over the years, it's hard to win a Super Bowl, you know. So if you get there, be blessed. We got a coach that got this team there 2 of the last 4 years. And if it wasn't for a holding call with, you know, a minute something left in that last Super Bowl, went down the field and would have had a different result. So, you know, you can't argue with success. He's got 2 good coordinators this year. Last year he didn't. Vic Fangio, one of the best out there defensively. Kellen Moore has shown the ability to adapt this offense from what it was to a very efficient, very old school, an offense that just wins. And that's, you know, I tell people all the time, who cares about stats? This game's about rings. And if we got Jalen Dilfer instead of Jalen Hurts, who throws for 11 of 18 and 160 yards and throws a touchdown, I'll take that guy. Ted Dilfer won a Super Bowl with the Ravens. That's who you want. You want to be efficient. You don't want to turn the ball over. And the final score is all that matters. It's not about throwing for 3 or 350 or 400 yards and, you know, you turn the ball over 2 or 3 times. What good is that? You know, so you got to give Sirianni, you know, the benefit of the doubt. He's done an amazing job when it comes to winning.
I got to ask you this question. The Pats they let Mayo leave the building. They bring in Mike Vrabel. Has had a lot of, not success, but he worked with A.J. Brown. There's been rumblings. I know A.J.'s paid. I know Devontae Smith's paid. My question may offseason, and I don't know if it depends on if you win or lose on Sunday, but there are rumblings that the Patriots might come knocking to see a potential trade with the Eagles for A.J. Brown. Is that all just smoke? I mean, there's nothing to that.
No, I mean, A.J. has expressed to some people, like I know A.J. I used to train a kid. You know, I'm big in the boxing game. My family still has a boxing gym in Philly. And I trained a kid for years. His brother was on the Olympic team with Floyd Mayweather, Zaire Rahim. I trained Wahid for years. And Wahid ended up now training a couple of world champions. And he actually trained AJ in the off season with the boxing a couple of days a week. And he knows. And AJ loves Philly, and he wants to stay in Philly. He just feels like this offense isn't, you know, isn't going in the direction that he wants, where he wants his touches and he wants his stats. And there's a real possibility he could leave. And Mike Vrabel, I mean, you guys, he's one of my favorite coaches. If you look at his second half adjustments while he was a coach, I think top 3 in the NFL, scoring points, allowing points. He was a great pickup for you guys. So he's definitely going to change everything around up there in New England. But yeah, there's a real possibility he could end up there. Why not?
Well, I wouldn't be doing my justice. I follow you every day. And you were way ahead of the curve here with the St. John's basketball team, the Johnnies, and they just happen to be traveling to stores where I have 2 daughters, one graduated and one still at UCONN, season ticket holder here, 2-time defending champs. And I know Rick Pitino, the respect that he has for Hurley. You're 20-3. You're cooking with Crisco. I talked about it on our buy, hold, sell, or yell show yesterday. You can get 47-1 right now for the Johnnies to cut the net down. You can get them at 9 or 10-1 to make it to the Final Four. Right now, you're probably looking at a 1.5. The game is big for both teams, but it's not going to end the season. Congrats. Give us where you came up with the Johnnies light years ago, and what you're seeing so far from the Johnnies.
As soon as the season was over last year, I said, watch out for St. John's. You got Rick Pitino. I got friends up there, open checkbook. You got NBA talent on that team. And last year, if you remember, I think 2 of the 3 games against UConn, they lost by 3 points or less. They gave UConn a lot of problems. Who's better than Coach Pitino during March Madness? And now he's got a real team. And even though they're 20-3, they have a negative luck factor. They could have won those 3 games they lost if they just made some foul shots. That's how good this team is. So I definitely like them to go deep in March Madness. I think they're a Final Four team, and if the ball bounces their way, they can definitely get to the national championship. When it comes to March Madness, it's all about coaching. It's all about that turnover to the next game. And who's sharper than Rick? Worries me about their foul shooting a little bit, but I'm hoping by the time the tournament comes around, they get that straightened out. But they got some game players. They got some game changers on that basketball court. And they got that grit, man, that Pitino brings. And, give me Pitino against the world. And at 60-1, I mean, come on. 60-1, you're not going to take a nibble on that? That, to me, the last time I felt this good about a team was the Dayton Flyers back in 2020 when I had them at 100-1. And then COVID hit, and they ended up having the number 1 seed. And that's how confident I feel about this St. John's team.
No, I love where your eyes are. I've been, following all along, and now it just happened. We bring you on today, and we're going to see each other on Friday. Listen, I plan to do a lot more of this with you and I moving forward here. I love your work. I love everything about you. You got a book. Everyone knows on Twitter where to follow you, at the Philly Godfather, of course. But talk about your book, where they can find it, and all the rest of your work, Steve.
Yeah, you can go to phillybooked.com. You can pre-order it now. We've had over 1,000 pre-sales, and I want to thank everyone who's pre-ordered the book already. We didn't expect that much, that many sales already. It'll be on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles after February 24th, which is the final edit. So we came out with some unedited editions. I've been giving them out to friends and family. But after about the first week of March, it'll go into full production. Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, phillybooked.com. And then in 2026, we start the movie. So there's a lot of things going on that are fun. And there's been books written about my crew, and there's been some movies made. We've done some of the biggest shows in the world, from NBC World News to News Nation to, you name it, name the show. We've been there at Fox, ESPN. And I'm glad I'm on here because this is one of my favorite spots. I see you got my good friend Billy on here. Crack is one of the best guys in the world. I love him to death, man. I would do anything for that guy. He's such a good dude. So there's a lot of stuff going on. But if you want to buy the book, phillybooked.com. And then first week of March, it'll be on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, and everywhere else where you get your book at.
Well, I want the signed autograph version, Steve.
You got it. Whatever you want, I got you. I got you covered.
All right, Steve. Steve, you have a great weekend. Enjoy. You got a little appetizer with UConn and St. John's on Friday. Then, of course, best of luck to your Eagles. I'll have myself and my team circling back to you. We got some stuff to talk about moving forward.
St. John's wins that game. Good luck, guys.
Take care, Stevie. Go follow Steve at Philly Godfather, the best in the business. I tell you, I was blessed and honored last year at the Super Bowl to meet him, to bring him on to the Diehards. Just a straight shooter, great guy. And go get that book. I can't wait to get it myself. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to wrap it up. And we got a busy day here. So please stay tuned. ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app. What a show, what a show. Adam Trigger started it off talking some college hoops, and we bring in Mr. Steve himself, the Philly Godfather, to wrap it up to talk Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl against the Chiefs. You can't quantify greatness. Of course, we're talking now about Patrick Mahomes. Go grab that book. Go follow Steve at Philly Godfather. Busy show schedule here today. 3 o'clock. Fight Night Fortunes with Lou Finicaro. We're going to talk some UFC this weekend. 5 o'clock, Ron Marmolewski comes back to talk about the Super Bowl, maybe some hidden props and gems that he has. I'm going to ask him his thoughts with Chip Kelly, leaving Ohio State and now heading to Las Vegas with the Raiders and Tom Brady there. And then at 7 o'clock, Brady Tinker talking Dallas Mavericks, Luka talking Kansas City Chiefs. So I want to give a good shout out to Live Zone, CJ, and of course Kyle for all their work behind the scenes, and of course Elijah Cox himself as we get prepared for the rest of the day. Everyone, if you haven't already, jump on over to YouTube at East Coast Sports Investors. Subscribe, it's free. Come on back to Twitter. Follow us at EC Sports Invest. Turn on your notifications and never miss a show. We'll be back soon, guys. Stay tuned. Have a great afternoon.